doom and gloom for Liverpool, but they have only lost 2 games this season. I think that's the last loss they've had in about 20. So I do think the conversation has to move to that. But as you said, I do think football can be very simple, but at the same time, it's so simple, it's complicated. I really agree with your point in that you can't just look at things binary. There's many different variables, and I think you need to approach it with several sides. So you're bang on the money. So like, what would you say is a salvageable season beyond the obvious? Obviously, it would be lovely to win the Premier Champs. Where do we rank in the champs? As positively pessimistic, I guess, as what I'm asking you, in that it's not what you wanted, but you can move with it.
Before I answer that, I want to pick up on something you said, because I think it's important. The getting over the line thing, that's the final stage of a maturing team.
And when I see that, bro, that's when I'll be sitting here saying we're winning this, that, and the other.
And that's why I say, for me personally, we're still, you know, if you don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But we do have a team full of 22 and 23-year-olds. Like, you know,
and I'm not even buoying it as well. To age your point, Arteta's a young manager. I'm not going to keep saying that, because these lot are old enough to learn from certain things, but there's bumps and bruises on the road. So I agree with that. And I think people need to comprehend that.
It's a fact. Like, it's not about whether it's not an opinion whether Arteta's a young manager, or it's not an opinion that we've got a young team. It is a fact. They are a young team, and you know, that's where we are. That's not to excuse any underperformance, but it's a fact, you know, unfortunately. So it tells you that there's going to be a level of maturity in getting over the line. But I also, you know, again, I want to take it out. We exist in very online Arsenal spaces, right? So we get Arsenal opinion. If you go and talk to City fans, they go, yeah, but sometimes we just don't get it over the line. If you go and talk to Liverpool fans, why do we drop all these stupid points? We always do this. Everyone thinks that they're the ones who are the only ones who drop points. You think because you're focused on your club. You have to look at things in a league-wide perspective. And we are currently in the best position for when Klopp moves on in the summer, as you're alluding to, with, you know, the sporting director going or whatever, to take advantage of that. We are absolutely in the best position to do that. And we're also up against the world's best club manager, and we have to accept that is where we are. Not to say we can't compete, because we clearly can, which makes what we're doing even more exciting. But I think then if we can't do that, we've failed. I just think you're just setting yourself up for failure in life, really. If that's your definition of success.
Failure isn't a bad thing, bro. Like Mikel Arteta, if he's not failing every day, then he's not learning, and that goes for everybody in general. I do believe success it's not just trophies, but it is trophies. And to go back to what you said, for last season, I do believe two truths live in the same realm, in that we weren't expected to be in that race. We were in that race. And I do think we bottled it, because, again, I said this before, I think on the face of it, you know, there's no shame in losing to a treble winning manager like Pep, a generational coach, a great City team. You know, we're going to look back in 10, 20 years. That's going to be on Premier League years on Sky Sports. It is what it is. But I know Arteta and these players know in their hearts that league was in their hands, really. And you look at the amount of times we've taken the lead and been a bit silly. It kind of aids to what you say, in that this is where I believe it's not white and black, because it kind of filters to what you say, in that we have to be, not accept it, but we have to be prepared that there is going to be these self-inflicting errors and bumps and bruises on the road as we try and get into that maturity. Because as much as I think they're young, I think whether you're young or old, and I'm being a bit harsh, you've played enough games to know certain things collectively. And I don't know why it's not been arrested yet. I'm not assuming it's easy, but this is why I like having you on my platform, because you're able to see things. I don't even know the word, but like, you're able to see things from a wider point of view, man.
On that comment, I want to come back to that. Just on the previous comment, sorry.
This one, trophies.
When you spend the amount we have spent successfully winning trophies, that would be fine if Arsenal were the only team who spent money. Aston Villa spent over 100 million in the summer. Bournemouth spent over 100 million in the summer.
Premier League people spend money, bro. Even with Klopp, like, people act like he's not spending peas. Like, he spent peas. He just spent correctly.
Brighton 100 million, Chelsea 450 million in the summer. You know, so, and I can just keep going down the Premier League clubs. So we can't exist in this Arsenal vacuum and think that we're the only team who ever drop points. We're the only team who ever show any sign of immaturity, and we're the only team who ever spend money. We're in an environment, and then we have to decide what success and failure is from there.
I've got a question for you. Go on, continue what you're saying. You just triggered a question.
And so when we come to success and failure, if you choose to say success is only going to be if we win the league or if we win a trophy, absolutely fine. And by the way, I'm not saying the end of last season wasn't
Nah, I
a
know you're not saying
disappointment.
that.
It was absolutely a disappointment, and we should have gone on to win the league from the
We've
position
spoken about that many times. Like
from the
you are
position
not
we were
saying that.
in. From the position we were in. But if you're looking at it as a totality, we are a team who since 2019 have gone, right, we've got to try and beat the big dogs. We've got ourselves in that conversation. By the way, this season, yesterday, we probably got 3 players who would have started not in the team. We barely even talk about this. Timber, Partey, and Jesus. You could even argue Tomiyasu might have played
I'm just about to say,
because it was Liverpool. So we're doing it with injuries. We're doing it with a young manager, and so I'm not. And again, you people go, oh, you're excusing failure. I'm not excusing failure. I'm contextualizing that we're in an environment where there's been 2 teams here. We've challenged and we've gone up, and now we're here. And then if someone says, well, if we don't do that, we've failed. I just can't agree with you.
I think
Wait,
I think to go with that, we're in that's either where we're kicking on or we're going down now.
yeah.
We're gone.
But the evidence we have so far is that we've done that, right? So and what we
Slower,
saw,
but yeah.
and yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And what we saw yesterday was a team that can go toe to toe with the teams that were here, and we've seen it at the Emirates this season against City as well. So if the only evidence we have, and I also think the idea of Arteta's inexperienced and he's not learning. This guy learns.
No,
This guy
he is learning.
understands.
He is learning.
This guy and again, people say, "Oh,
Look at how we approach big games, whether we win, lose, or whatever. It's
Look
not
how-
a battering. It's fine margins that go against us 9 times out of 10.
It's fine margins, and people say, "Oh, it's the squad." Right. So who were the injury prone players last season? There was Zinchenko. Well, he signed Timber and he got an ACL. What can you do about that? Aaron Ramsdale was making mistakes. He signed David Raya to replace him. Thomas Partey was out all the time. We signed Declan Rice to replace him. Well, Gabby Jesus was a problem. We signed Havertz, who can come in and do a job in a big game against. So it's
disagree with 2 names there, but I hear the point.
But the point being that he is learning from all of these experiences, and if you go into if you look tactically, for example, against Liverpool are going to press you extremely high, and I could get the tactical board up and show you, but we changed our shape in terms of pulling Zinchenko out wide, pushing Jorginho and Odegaard a little bit further back to create that numerical superiority in the first phase to get out. So all of these things he is learning and understanding, and when Jones moved back, he moved things around again. He brought on Kibior. I don't know whether that was forced or not, but I thought
even with it probably was. Even with Kai Havertz, you look at the first 10 or so minutes, he's basically a left back. I promise you, anyone go watch that game again, he's pulling into the left back region. So that's one thing I've always seen with Arteta. He does do that mad science stuff. But as much as me and you talk about this all the time, I have nothing but praise for Arteta. I like him. But in the same way, if I want Saka to be a world-class player, there's going to be bumps and bruises. I believe for Mikel Arteta, I genuinely believe this. There's certain conversations around squad depth and stuff. Obviously, I'm not a fly in the wall at London Coley. I don't know the variables that are unknown to an ignorant football fan. But I do think for example, our signings, they've been in the right trajectory. The hit to miss ratio has been better in terms of the project. Now, if we're looking at winning the league title, it needs to be smaller. Again, it's contextualizing things, and it's not the same kind of year. But where you look at 30 on Fabio Vieira, who I like, Lokonga, for example, who's doing well at Luton, but it's nowhere near the first team, and a couple of signings like that. And then obviously Havertz has done well. Yesterday he did very well, but 65 million. It's these kind of things that I'm looking at Arteta and saying, can we now have a better success rate? Because it does feel like we need, it just feels like we're flirting with what we could be. A couple of additions and we're laughing, in my opinion. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about squad depth? Because injuries do happen. Me personally, I don't believe Arteta to a degree has a leg to stand on. I give him luxuries with injuries. They always happen. But a number of these players we've seen before, when Mikel Arteta comes out, as much as I like him, and says we've got the finished squad, maybe if you say that in 2019, maybe even 2020, I can hear that. I can't really hear that at this moment in time, because you've seen what's happening. You've seen what injuries can do to our season. You've seen it even when we lost out on top 4. So how do you feel on him saying that? And I also say, before I let you answer, if I go back a few weeks ago, he actually said in March or April, you need to have your players fit. Now, Arteta is a sensible guy. In August, you knew what could happen. And again, I don't know all the variables, but you're an intelligent guy. You consider variables I don't even know are variables. So I find it quite hard that this analytical individual that I have all this admiration for, it's almost like you could not see the rain was coming, being a bit ignorant with that. So do you feel that these kind of things about the finished squad and do you feel these excuses, not excuses, but they're kind of running out now, and it's something that we can't really keep hearing?
If it's all contextual, you know, you could even say, well, you know,
you definitely get paid for using that word, but go on.
You have to contextualize things. You can't remove them from their context. You know, it's like, you know, if say for example, you know, the team bus topples over and everyone breaks their legs,
God
like,
forbid.
and then we go, well, he can't use injuries as an excuse. It's like,
what? I hear that, but it's true.
So,
but then it's the knock-on effect, because Arteta will talk about Thomas Partey, the guy that he even forced into the team playing kind of right back. You know he's a key player. You know the knock-on effect that he has when he's not here. I don't think necessarily I think Declan Rice is a long-term 6, but I don't think that was a long-term replacement. You know, I look at, you know, Arteta says we need to score 100 goals, and then you've come out and said that it was kind of an anomaly what our players done. Now, I know you know that we know that this is a project. And again, I don't know what budget he had, but I know getting a striker, getting a winger, it helps with certain people. I do feel, and to be honest with you, I'm quite ignorant. No one could convince me. Central midfield, I'm having the same conversations that I shouldn't. So I definitely feel that Arteta has to take some of the blame. I do feel there's certain controllables that he can control, and he needs to kind of face the music. But then I feel like what you're saying, you need to contextualize it. You need to understand that there's many variables out of Arsenal Football Club's control, which is, it is what it is, man. Do you think Arteta will get a new deal?
Yeah, again, you know,
I have to ask you these things.
I want to be very, very, very clear that I'm not in any way suggesting, you know, for example, I did a video on my channel a couple of weeks ago about, I think Arteta should have signed a striker in the summer, because he said, again, you know, you don't know whether the comments were, you know, maybe he'd rephrase it in a different way. I don't know, but it sounds like what he's saying is they knew that Saka, Martinelli, and so on wouldn't repeat the same thing again. And if they didn't, then I think it was silly not to sign a striker.
Exactly.
I think he's made lots of mistakes. I think I would agree with you that, you know, if you look at the transfer record of Jurgen Klopp versus Arteta, I think Arteta's probably not as good for Klopp, and certainly not as good as Pep. So there's some question marks around some signings. I think his talent ID generally is really, really good.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I praise it. The talent ID has been very good in the last 18 months in particular. People won't even give Zinchenko credit, and I know he's got a lot of defensive faults. He's been bloody mustard for Arsenal Football Club. Gabriel Jesus the same.
But it's an area. It's an area he can improve. I also think, you know, in terms of using youth players, I think it's an area he improves. So there's a number of things he can do. But I go back to it. Not sound like Roy Keane. You know, if you told someone, right, you know, if you told someone about another team in, I don't know, in the NFL, and said, right, there's been these two teams who keep going at each other.
Alex, not to cut you, but I can't ignore this comment. You're going to get back into what you're saying. I'm sorry if you think Arsenal were playing on the counter attack yesterday. That must be agenda. You're chatting BS. But go on, Alex, man. That's nonsense. But go on, bro. I'll cut you off.
Sorry, yeah, it's, you know, it's you know, there's an NBA team where there's been, you know, the goal. I know nothing about NBA. I'm just using an analogy. So, you know, the Lakers versus the Golden State Warriors. They've been going at each other for years. They've been top for 10 years, and then now the Chicago Bulls have hired a new coach who've got them in the conversation. And then you hear about the fans want him out because, or not going to offer him a new deal because he hasn't managed to win something in the last 10 years, even though they've been the best teams. It's just nonsense. Give it time. Now is the time to be giving him the new deal, backing him. He's shown what I just don't. It's similar to, you know, the conversation we were having earlier. What more can he show you to prove to you? What more does he need to do? Like games like yesterday, winning against City at the Emirates, in the conversation with the title race. What more does he show you to need to do to show you he's in those conversations at the top tables of European football? I really don't know. I
think for me with Mikel Arteta, it's, as we kind of said earlier, it's like, I don't think now is it, but I feel for me personally, I'm moving into the scenario of one love for the rebuild and all the things you're doing. But now I believe more so next season, it's now, can you deliver us that? You know, in terms of what you like to say, in terms of KPIs, young players are getting better. You've shown me the mad scientist tactics sort of things. You've shown me you can plan. You know, you've weeded out players who are not on this and got players in. We've improved defensively or showed building blocks of that. I still think, again, isolated into winning a Premier League title, there's variables that need to be maximized more, but you're hitting all of those. You know, generally, the talent ID has been good as well. So you're doing all of that.
I want to be clear, you know, as you say, love for the rebuild, 100%. But then if we don't in the next I would say 18 months. You know, I don't want to set a timeline on it, but you know, certainly at some point soon, win a title. Again, you know, you have to look at the context, what happens, whatever. But the shape of the league's changing. You know, Liverpool, whatever. If we don't go and challenge major honours and get to these finals and get to into these conversations, do better in the cup competitions, I agree. Yeah, we'd start to have conversations. But right now, he's got us to that conversation, and this is the first season where we're really in that conversation, and we haven't got to the end of the season yet. So let's just wait and see what happens, you know. And then, you know, then next season, if we drop out of both cup competitions again, we're not in the title race conversation, we drop out the Champions League early, we can start to have conversations. Is this the guy to move us forward? He's taken us this far, 100%. But you know, last season we jumped and then regressed a little bit towards the end. Now we've shown that we can sustainably be in the conversation, and let's see what happens in the back end of the season. And yeah, I find it, I really do find it incredible. People who, I'm not suggesting there's no problems with Mikel Arteta, but there's problems with every manager. Every single, you know, you say, oh, I want to give him a new deal. Well, what about this?
Big up Roms, the Liverpool fan that was in the chat. He wanted Klopp gone, and he's kind of got his wish now. But go on, like.
Yeah, it's, you know, and we also, you know, we've got another massive summer window coming up, you know, and more conversations to be had, and a maturing team. And I just, yeah, I don't know. I find it really, really incredible that people want him gone. I just, it makes it really, by every metric, I don't understand that. But
For me, I think there's genuine question marks over Arteta. You know, as we said, I think the conversation goes into a league title. You know, for me, it's not Mikel Arteta or die. If somebody presents me with someone that ties in with what Arsenal are trying to do, and they've maybe got a bit more maturity or a bit more street smartness, so that if they fall into a title race like last season, they're able to bring it home. If you can bring me someone like that, I'm all for it.
Better, get him in.
Yeah. I'm all for that. I like Arteta, but I'm all for that. I support Arsenal Football
Agree.
Club, and it just feels like there's some individuals that are just sworn into Mikel Arteta to the point where you can't ask healthy questions. And I just think there's some people that are not necessarily convinced. That's where I'm at. Being a bit of a simple question, but being devil's advocate, because of like indirectly what you said about what we've been speaking about, better yet, in terms of trajectory and things like that. Do you feel last season, to a degree, could have been the worst thing to happen to us, because it's kind of aroused imagination? It's kind of, maybe we've accelerated to a level that we didn't expect to be at already, and it's aroused the imagination of fans for a title winning sort of thing.
I think it's got positives and negatives. You know, I think it allowed us probably to attract the likes of Declan Rice in the summer. You know, to say, look, we are in that conversation. You know, maybe does he go somewhere else if we don't have that start to the season and finish? Say, you know, we creep up and come second. You know, even the games we're having, you know, at the Emirates where he's coming and he's going, they were unbelievable today. You know, playing that kind of football. But I do think we would have got. The thing is, mate, everything comes back to the game. Everything comes back to the game. We can talk managers, we can talk environment, we can talk, you know, trophies, we can talk expectations, all these things. In the end, how is he setting Arsenal up, and is he setting us up to win? And he is. We look at every single possible metric. We look at